Hello again, this is Mark Stewart, back in my continuing series on the long-term effects of bullying and how it can affect you as an adult. And welcome as I begin to turn the corner from section 2 of the book, where I talked about negative coping mechanisms, into the third section of the book, where I talk about healing. So if you are dealing with issues from the bullying and from your past, guess what? We're going to start talking about healing today. We're just barely going to start scratching the surface, but we're going to start talking about it. This is again also promotion for my upcoming book, which should be out in the next 2 to 3 weeks. That book is titled Names Will Hurt Me, Healing for Victims of Bullying. You can heal. You can have a better future. I know because I've been there. I was bullied horribly, and if you watch some of the early videos, you're going to find out that because of that, I screwed up my life as a young adult. I made a big mess. But now, things are much better. I have learned better ways of living, better ways of coping with life. I've found healing and hope, and I have a life that I love. You can have this too. But let's start talking about the next section, and it's going to take several videos to cover it. And I still may not be able to hit it near the detail I did in the book. But section 3 of the book is entitled The Ultimate Road Trip. Because life is the ultimate road trip. And on this road trip, first of all, in order to get past where you've been, you've got to unpack the car. You've got to get rid of the junk and the baggage that's been slowing you down. And you can't put good things into the car if it's full of all the old stuff. You've got to empty it out first. So we're going to begin to talk about that today. Next, you've got to balance the tires. You've got to have a better balanced way of looking at life. And we're going to talk about the victim mentality, the victor mentality, and then a third mentality that I believe in, which is the balanced way of looking at life. Next, we're going to talk about reprogramming your GPS. Guess what? Your mind works like a GPS. It's been pre-programmed by your past and your own way of seeing the world, your view of the world, to automatically point you in certain directions or have you react in certain ways and make certain turns, just like a GPS. Before you can change your life, you've got to reprogram that. You've got to make sure that your mind is putting you the direction you want to go and giving you good directions. And last, we're going to talk about roadblocks and rest stops. This will probably take a few videos because I'm going to go through some of these. There are things that are going to cause you to sometimes stop your forward momentum. Maybe it's a traumatic event. It could be loss of a job. It could be financial. It could be the death of a loved one, divorce. There are things that can cause you to stop your forward momentum. And there's other roadblocks I want to talk about, including failure. That can, if you're not careful, they can pause your forward momentum. But you don't have to just stop and stay there. You can begin moving again. I'm also going to talk about rest stops. These are places where you can get a chance to rest and recover, and techniques that will help you to begin moving forward again. Now, one of the things I do want to talk about first is the idea of making peace with your past. This is the first part of unpacking your car. You have to first begin to make peace with what happened to you and where you are now as a result. One of the problems I talked about in an earlier video is that as a victim of bullying, there is a lack of closure. You graduated from middle school, high school, wherever the bullying occurred, and suddenly everyone told you it was just part of growing up, get over it. How can you have closure when you're not allowed to even admit that you struggled or suffered trauma? They didn't understand that they were causing you pain. They thought they were helping you by just telling you to get past it. But no, that doesn't help deal with it. What it does is make that lack of closure. You just never feel like, it's like an open wound. It never gets dealt with. It never heals if nothing is ever done about it. So, part of this is to first admit that you have issues. And some of the things you deal with now as an adult are directly linked to the trauma you suffered from the bullying. Maybe you do fit in one of those 4 categories or coping mechanisms, personas that I talked about earlier. The underachiever, the overachiever, the people pleaser, or the punisher. I have a video on each one of those. If you're questioning whether maybe you fit into one of those, I'm going to give you a very, very quick overview. The underachiever, the low self-esteem from the bullying does damage to the point that you self-sabotage and you don't ever achieve what you're capable of. The overachiever is simply using busyness and using achievement to try and gloss over the pain. But inside, there's still a mess. And eventually burnout is a possibility. Not to mention at some point they've got to stop working, even if it's just retirement, and they're going to have to deal with all that they've been hiding from. And the overachiever can have real problems at home. As they achieve in the work world, their home life can fall apart. Okay, and then next one was the people pleaser. Maybe you desire love and acceptance from people so much that you don't have the word no in your vocabulary, and you burn yourself out and exhaust yourself trying to help others, and it inhibits your own growth and your own success. And the last one's the punisher. That's where you use anger from the bullying, anger towards the bullies, and anger towards yourself to push everyone away. But it can also cause you to overreact to minor confrontations and can cost you jobs, can cost you relationships. Again, I've been here for this one. It can destroy your life, because it did mine for a while. Again, you can go through the previous videos and you can see detail about each one of those, because I spent 2 videos talking about those 4 personas. So admit, just be honest with yourself, that where you are now, and some of the maybe anxiety, maybe you struggle with depression, maybe you struggle with low self-esteem, or maybe it's anger and bitterness, but admit that they really are still directly related to what you went through, because you went through some pretty serious trauma at a time in your life when you were just really establishing your identity. It likely did damage to your psyche. It did damage to you psychologically. You're going to have to be willing to admit that. And that's not an easy thing to admit if you've spent years running from it. Next, you're going to have to make a decision to get beyond your past. Now that sounds simple. Okay, I want to get beyond my past. It's not that simple. As Dr. Phil has said in many times on his show, I've seen this several times when he's had people on there, they're getting something out of where they're at. He might have an alcoholic on there, and they'll I want to go beyond this. Well, they're getting something out of the alcohol because it's then dulling the pain, and they may say they want help, but yet they don't go to get the help. Sometimes maybe they even deny they need help. You're getting something out of those negative coping mechanisms in your life, whether it be anger or pushing people away with anger or overachievement. You're getting something out of it, and where you are is somewhat comfortable to you because you're familiar with it. The funny thing is, for me, the idea of failure was comfortable. I knew what it was like to fail. I could deal with failure because I know how to fail. I was a whole lot more scared of succeeding because that's new. And I don't know how to deal with that. At least I didn't. Now I do. And I love being successful because usually my success now also means helping others, which is what I love. You have to be willing to make the decision that where you are now is so painful to you that you don't want to stay there anymore. That you are willing to face your past. You are willing to do whatever it takes to get past it. It takes some resolve, but it's possible. It's going to take some work on your part, but you are going to have to make that solid decision that you, starting right now, want to begin moving beyond your past. Next, you're going to have to allow some of those painful memories to surface. And it may not be direct memories. It might be that you have memories from the past and the bullying, and you see their faces or hear their words, and you really in mind replay a video of some of the actual events. So you're going to allow those to surface instead of running from them or hiding from them, and be willing to face them and say, but that's not me anymore. I'm not there. I don't have to live there anymore. Or maybe it is just general feelings of anxiousness, anxiety, or just a depression that seems to for me, I would just be sitting in a room and suddenly I would feel like the walls were closing in on me. I would just feel like I got to get out. And this black cloud of depression would just settle on me, and I would struggle to just get up in the morning. I understand what that feels like, because again, I've been there. You don't have to stay there. But you're going to have to be willing to face those feelings and face the trauma. And that's not an easy thing to do sometimes. It hurts. But it's less painful than staying where you're at. Trust me on this one. The life on the other side is so beautiful and so worth it. Be willing to face your past. Be willing to face your memories. Be willing to not run from them anymore. You don't have to run from them. You're better than those memories. You're a better person than that. I can tell you, just because you've been born, just because you're human, you deserve better than that. You have unique talents and abilities that can help others. And in my case, the trauma that I went through, yes, it was difficult, but now I get to help others. I get to give back. And because I've gone through so much pain, I can look at someone and say, I understand, and they know that I do. They can see it in my eyes. You can have the life you desire, but you're going to have to be willing to face it. You have to be willing to take life head on where you are now. Okay? Next, you're going to have to be patient with yourself. There are going to be times that you are going to start down this road of healing, especially as I go in the next few videos and we start talking about the real steps you need to take to get beyond the past, to let this baggage all go. Because the next one's going to cover my story and the catalyst for change, and then I'm going to dig into the idea of deep cleaning, really getting rid of some of the pain and some of the trauma, and really getting rid of the baggage so that you can have room for good things in your life. Be patient with yourself. There's going to be times that you're going to take 1 or 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 steps forward, and then suddenly something's going to happen. It could be, again, like I talked earlier about, maybe a death of a loved one. It could be a job loss. It could be a financial problem. It could be a divorce. Something's going to happen that's going to set you back. And you're going to want to go back towards old ways of thinking and old ways of dealing with life because it's comfortable. And then you're going to why did I do that? You're going to question yourself. Be patient with yourself. You spent years or even decades finding ways to run from the past, finding ways to just ignore it or pretend it didn't happen and try and have a better life. It's not going to happen overnight. Be patient with yourself. And last, I want to talk about the idea of a catalyst. The next video is going to all be completely about the idea of a catalyst. And I'm going to give my story and what happened in my life that caused me to realize that I couldn't stay where I was anymore. What made me realize I'd hit rock bottom. And trust me, I hit rock bottom. Sometimes that's it. Sometimes you have to have something that makes you realize that living where you're at is just too painful and you can't stand to be there another minute. Maybe it's financial ruin or job. Maybe your career just isn't where it should be and you feel like you should have achieved more. Maybe it's something to do with the economy that's even out of your control or that you have very little influence on. It might be a divorce that you didn't have anything to do with. Your wife or husband decided, I just want to leave. And suddenly you find yourself having to deal with all this stuff. It could be any of a number of things, but usually something happens that kind of makes you realize that staying where you are is just too uncomfortable and you can't stand it anymore. And you're willing to begin to face life. You're willing to change. Something in your life is going to cause you to know that it's time. Maybe it's watching these videos. Maybe hearing my story and knowing that I struggled with what the bullies did to me and the low self-esteem and the anger that crushed my life, and realizing that here's someone who went through it too, but they got beyond it and they now have a great life. Maybe that's triggered something in you that said, I don't want to be here anymore. I hope so. I hope at least somebody, at least one person watches these videos and has that kind of reaction, that something inside resonates and says, I understand because that's me. You don't have to live there anymore. You can have a bright future. You can leave the past behind. Really leave it, not just run from it, but really deal with it so that it is behind you. It's never going to completely go away. There are times now that I still struggle with some minor depression. I still sometimes struggle with some social anxiety. But I don't let that rule my life anymore. And as I said in my story, when I gave that in, I think that was the second video, I went back to school eventually, and I got I got my bachelor's degree, and of course my master's. I now do things I enjoy. I do graphic design. I write. I'm creative. I get to do fun things. I take photographs professionally. These are fun things. These are things I like to do, and I get to do them and get paid for them. I have a wonderful wife that loves me for who I am, not because of what I can give. She just loves me for me. And I can't even begin to tell you how amazing that is, on top of the fact that she's a beautiful person inside and out. It's just such a difference in my life. And people here to pay to hear me speak. They pay to take classes where I'm going to be teaching. I have so many benefits in my life now. I have a wonderful life. You can have the life you desire. Whatever it is, you can have it. You don't have to stay where you're at. Thank you for watching these videos. Please watch this next video. Understand the idea of what a catalyst really is. I want you to hear my story because I told a lot of it during the second video, but I didn't touch on what made me feel like I hit rock bottom completely. I really want to hit that. I want you to hear it because I think it will resonate and it will connect with you. And then hang in there with me as we go into the rest of these. Unpacking the car, really getting deep cleaning, balancing those tires, reprogramming your GPS, and learning roadblocks, how to avoid them, how to deal with them when you hit them, and finding rest stops, places where you can rest, recover, and tools that will help you to continue moving forward. Thank you again for watching these videos, and I'll see you on the next one.